Hi, are we live? We are live, right? Yes, and this is Ed Talk series and our webinar number 3. And we are Open Malaysian Alumni. So if you are wondering what's Open Malaysian Alumni, we are a small team of English teachers from several Malaysian states who have completed online courses that were funded by the U.S. Department of State via the U.S. Embassy KL. So if any one of you out there who is also an alumni, meaning that you have joined any one of these courses and completed it, so we look forward for you to join us, right, for further collaboration and cooperation. This webinar series is a part of Dao project, which has been chosen as the winner of the Simon Greenall Award, sponsored by Macmillan Education, International House World Organization, and International House London. So before I proceed to the introduction, there are some ground rules that I would like to highlight. So make sure your details in the survey are correct, and especially your email, because you will get your e-certificate through the email that you put in into the survey form in within a week after when the webinar is over. So the link to the survey and e-certificate form is only accessible for a short amount of time before it will be deactivated. So for Malaysian participants, particularly the English teachers or teachers, Malaysian teachers, there's a separate link for you to fill in for the SPLKPM. All right, a little bit about our guest speaker. Her name is Madam Lim Lai Poh, and she's an English teacher with 34 years of teaching experiences. She has a bachelor degree in TESOL with honors, and recently she was honored with Anugerah Perkhidmatan Cemerlang, the Excellence Service Award. And in the past few years, in the past few years, she has conducted dozens of teacher training workshops, teaching literature in primary school for teachers. And she is also a level 1 and 2 Google certified educator. She is also the CEFR master trainer. And her passion for reading affects her students as well. She managed to instill that passion among her students, and because she loves reading and she encourages her students to read, most of the students were tokoh nilam at the national level. Under her guidance, one of her I think the project that I find very inspiring is this PBL, the project-based learning that she did with her students, which under her guidance, her pupils were able to form a group to publish a book that collect essays, stories, and poems written by her own students. So without wasting any more time, I would like to pass this time over to Madam Lim. Madam Lim, how are you? Are you there? You have to unmute yourself, Lim. Sorry, Lim. You have to unmute yourself.
Okay, sorry about that.
How are you?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Josephine, for your introduction. Brilliant introduction. I hope I live up to all that. My topic today is the art of storytelling. It's more like I'm sharing what I've been doing with my students. So I hope the audiences will get some benefits from it. And I'm sure all of you have been telling stories to your students on your own. So maybe what I'm sharing is what you have been doing all along. Okay, let me share my slides. And without further ado, I'll start my presentation. Okay. Is the slide there? Okay, the slide is there. All right. Okay, the art of storytelling, nurturing creativity in students. Now, all of us must be thinking, what is storytelling? So, storytelling, according to the National Geographic Society, it says that storytelling is as old as culture. Many societies have long established storytelling tradition, which is true. You go to everywhere, you can find that there are storytellers around. And then stories have power. They delight, enchant, touch, teach, recall, inspire, motivate, and challenge the listener. They help us to understand. They imprint a picture in our mind and want to make a point or raise an issue, tell a story. So we tell a story to our students. So this is by Janet Littleland. She's an author. And then according to Matthew Sonican, this is what he said.
What is storytelling? Well, storytelling is one of the oldest forms of communication. It's as old as language itself. It's completely natural. It's a way of telling a story. It's a way of communicating emotions, ideas, a structure, a logical sequence of thinking in a tight, compact, comprehensible space.
Okay, that is according to Matthew. So, why is storytelling important? So, storytelling is important because teachers, we as teachers, we need to be able to motivate our students to achieve something, especially English teachers. We want them to be able to use the language. And then we want to remove the language learning barriers because especially my students, some of them are using their own L1, that is Bahasa Malaysia. And then here you have Bahasa Kadazan Dusun, the native language. Yeah, so to remove all that so that they understand English and be able to use it. And lastly, to prepare my students for success. I want all the teacher would like the students to be successful. And then why is important? Because another thing is all children love stories. Because stories, we have magic in it, and story will create illusion, and then it have emotion, especially all the warm feelings, the surprises, the ideas that make everything seem so incredible, especially to small children. And then storytelling also ensure participation from all the students, especially from the shyest, the most quiet student in the class, to the most active students. They are so active, they cannot sit still. But when you start telling the story, all of these students, even the shy one and the active one, they will sit quietly and listen to you. And its sustainability means story is continuous. It creates an appetite for the student to want to listen to more story, and it's encouraged the student themselves to tell their own story. They will be bursting with story to tell you. So by telling one story, you will create a change reactions, and then more students will want to tell their own story in a variety of ways. How How is storytelling important? It is important because the student themselves need to be able to achieve academic success. They need to be able to develop their language skills and build confidence in themselves. That is why it is so important for them, the storytelling itself. So, in another word, storytelling brings language alive to the students. They experience it themselves. And then storytelling creates a participatory and immersive experience. The students themselves are involved in the storytelling. They themselves are there, and then they experience the whole story themselves. It allows the student to enjoy hearing the language in a dynamic and entertaining way that they understand when they listen to the story of Snow White. Oh, this is how it goes. When they listen to it, it's different from reading. Yeah, they experience it. And then storytelling also introduce a lot of vocabulary, new vocabulary to the students. They learn more, and then they learn how to use phrases creatively, and then before you know it, your student will produce beautiful languages right there. Type of stories. There are many types of stories. So these are some of the stories that I use with my students. I use anecdotes with my students, parable, fable, myth, legend, fairy tale, satire, and fiction. So these are the type of stories that I usually use in the classroom with my students. And I'm sure all of you teachers here that have joined my class, my webinar today, have used this. Now, so what are anecdotes? So anecdotes are a short story. It can be any subject. And the best of all, it is usually true story, which make the listener think, oh, it happens that way. A parable, in another way, on the other hand, is just a figure of speech. It's a short story, and in the end of it, there is a moral lesson learned from it. Okay, so let me show you these two types of story. Okay, for anecdote, I'm sure all of you have heard of the story, The Man Who Carved a Road Through the Mountain so his people could reach a doctor in time. So the story goes like this. There's a man who worked in a stone quarry, and one day his wife brought lunch for him. Unfortunately, she met with an accident. She fell down and hurt herself. So he waited and waited for her. When she reached him, he was so hungry because it was so long. He has to wait for so long. And then he started to think, because after he saw her in tears and was in so much pain, so he think, why his wife need to trek all the way to the other side of the mountain from his house to his workplace just to give him lunch? Why not he cut through the mountain so that the journey will take a shorter time? And he did that. Because this is a true story. He really did that. So he took 22 years of his time to just cut through the mountain. He cut through the mountain, and not only he and his wife are able to use the road, the whole village can use it, and the villagers that surround his area are also able to use it. So it shows that instead of traveling for half a day to get over the mountain, you only spend half an hour. That means a 5 kilometers journey, just cut through. So he is able to do that. So that is the real story, an anecdote. A parable, on the other hand, is almost the same, like the anecdote. Yugong moved away the mountain. So this farmer, this poor farmer, his house lay at the foot of the mountain, and then the mountain blocked his view, and then he can't see the sea. So he wanted to see the sea so much. So what he did is he dig the mountain. So every day he dig and dig and dig. So the neighbor asked him, "Why do you dig this one?" He said, "I want to remove the mountain because I want to see the sea." The neighbor said, "You cannot remove the mountain. It will take you forever. It will take it, even after your lifetime, you will never finish." But he said, "It doesn't matter. After all, my sons will carry on the work after me. Then their son and their son after them will have our view of the sea in the end." So that made the gods of the mountain, hearing about what he said, they became frightened. And what they did is they moved away the mountain. So in the end, Yugong's dream came true. So this is where you can tell your students, where there is a will, there's a way. So that is a parable. So the difference between an anecdote and a parable is, one is a real story, it really happened, and the other one is a make-up story. And at the end of the story, there is something that the student will learn. Next, the type of stories are called the fable and the myth. I'm sure most teachers use this in the classroom. A fable is short story with supernatural happening, usually about animals which can speak and act like human. And myth are usually a traditional story served to unfold unexplainable belief. And also there's always, like I said, moral lesson at the end of the story. Now for this, I'll let you listen to the stories told by my students.
Hello everyone, my name is Almagar Sossel from Class 3 Hope. Today I'll be presenting about The Hungry Mouse. That is the title of this story. Once upon a time, a mouse was having a very tough time. She had no food for many days and made a strenuous effort to get food. All her efforts were in vain, so she found and looked everywhere to find her food. As the day passed by, she became very thin. One day, the mouse found a basket full of corns. She also noticed a tiny hole in the basket, which was sufficient enough to move her in. She was easily moved inside the hole. Since she had no food for many days, she ate the largest amount of corn. Without realizing, she continuously ate more and more corns. She realized later that she ate more corn than she required. After eating a whole lot of corn, she became very fat. The mouse started screaming, "Ah! Oh God, let me out! How can I come out?" A rat, hearing the mouse's screamed voice from the basket, asked her what happened. The mouse told the story and asked the rat's solution. Rat told, "If you want to come out of the basket, wait some time or even days to lose all your fat until you grow thin. Mouse started to starve, but with lots of food to come out of nothing, she came out of the trap. The moral of the story? Lesson. Anything too much is good for nothing. Hello everyone, my name is Almagra.
Once upon a time, the state of Kelantan was ruled by a female ruler. Her name was Cik Siti Wan Kembang. Her father passed away when she was only 4 years old. Cik Siti Wan Kembang's favorite animal was the deer. She was presented with the deer, which later became a symbol of the state emblem. At that time, the gold coins were stamped with the image of a deer too. Chick Sitiwan Kembang is a legendary figure for her beauty, courage, and wisdom. She made sure the land under her control was always safe from enemies. She was respected as a warrior princess. She was brave to enter battles on a horseback with an army of female horse riders. Though admired by many of her beauty, took she got married, but she never got married, but she adopted a child named Princessa Adong. Chick City One took care of Princessa Adong until she grew up. She married a prince named Raja Abdullah. She found out that Raja Abdullah was remarried. She was hurt, so she killed him. Chick City One Kabak never died but disappeared into the mystical world and never has been found again. Once upon a time, the
Okay. As you can see that my students, they are telling the myth and the fable. They are still learning at that time. At that point of time, they are still learning. They are still telling the story and reading from text. But it's okay, because what we want here is slowly cultivating them, nurturing them, so that they, at the end of the day, they are able to do it on their own. And as you can see, the other one, the myth, this group of students, they are very shy, so they dare not show their face when they are telling the story. So what gives them the confidence is when they use the stick figure, they feel more confident when they are presenting the myth. Okay. So next one, the type of story are the legends and fairy tales. So for legends, it is usually traditional story and regarded as historical but not proven and handed down by traditions. As for fairy tales, it is written in lots of storybooks. It's magical, and there's a lot of characters in it, like elves, goblin, wizard, witches, fairies. Okay, so this my student also will present this story later on. For the legend, what my student did is they used the storyboard, okay, for this story. And then for the fairy tales, the students will tell it on their own. Okay, let me share with you.
The Legend of Huminodun. Kinoingan and his wife Suminundu had only one daughter, Huminodun, who was incomparably beautiful as she was gracious. One celestial day, a devastating famine descended upon the earth, causing massive starvation among Kinoingai's people. The people had earlier strayed from Kinoingan, who was deeply saddened by the turn of events. Seeing her father's prolonged sadness, Huminodun offered herself to be sacrificed to enable her body to be transformed into rice to feed the people. Thus, it came to pass that Huminodun in the Kadazan language is now equated to sacrifice. It was from Huminodun's sacrificed body that Babazon or the spirit of rice sprung. The end. Presented by
Patricia,
Sophia,
Isilia,
Luminashini, Rivera, and Nur Shazrin. The Legend of.
Hello, teacher and friends. Today I will be showing you a story about the little match girl. Once upon a time, on Christmas Eve, it was cold and snowing. The little match girl walked down a street alone. She had no scarf and no shoes. She was wearing shoes when she came out from home, but they were too big. When she crossed the street, one of them was lost. The other was picked up by a boy. A whole day long, no one bought her matches. No one gave her any penny. The lights were on. Streets were filled with the smell of roast goose. There were two buildings on the street. One approached to the street more than the other. There was a corner between the two buildings. She sat down crouched, put her little feet underneath her body. However, she was getting colder and colder. Her little hands were frozen. They were completely numb. Even a small match would be very useful right now. She took out a match and scratched it on the wall. She put her hands around the little flame. The little girl thought she was sitting before a stove. The brass heat and brass handle were all polished. It was very warm. The little girl scratched out her legs. She wanted to make them warm. Just at this moment, the light went out. The stove disappeared. There was only a burned match in her hand. She scratched a match on the wall once again. The light made the wall, it looked like a restaurant. She looked inside. There were tablets with sparkling white tablecloths. The tables were placed with and delicious roast geese. However, the flame went out. She scratched a match one more time. This time, she was sitting under a lovely Christmas tree. The framed picture was looking at her. The little girl reached out her hands. She wanted to touch this beautiful Christmas tree. But at this moment, when she wants to touch the Christmas tree disappeared again. She scratched a match on the wall once again. The match light up surroundings. Her old grandmother was standing in the bright light. She was so clear, so kind. The little girl was very afraid that her grandma would disappear like the oven, the roast goose, and the Christmas trees. She quickly scratched the rest of the matches together. Her old grandmother hugged the little girl in the light of fire. They were surrounded by joy. They flew up high to a very happy place. In the early morning, the little girl was sitting at the corner with a smile on her red face. She was dead. The snow of Christmas morning covered her body. People were so surprised. The end. Hello, teacher and friends.
Okay, as you can see, these are two different way of telling the story. One is done, they're using the storyboard. They first of all, the students, they have to go out and find out the traditional story. They get it from books. They can talk to their parents, and then they spend a few days in here. In this, they spend 1 whole week preparing, and then each different group, they do different stories. So this is only one of the story that I'm showing you. And then for the little match girl, this girl, she's only like 9 years old. So yeah, she's only 9 years old, standard 3 students. And she is already starting to telling stories. So of course she's starting slowly by, first of all, choose her best, the story that she loved the best to share with the class. So this is one of my online class. So yes, you can do storytelling online as well as face-to-face teaching. Okay, let us go to the next genre. Okay, the next one is the satire and fiction. Now, satire are normally very short story, and there is a humor to show someone who is foolish, weak, or bad. And for me, I usually use a very short story to tell my students. And then for fictions, it's up to my students to create the story to tell the class. So normally the fictions that they use to tell the class are very, very short. Okay, let me show you the thing.
Hi, sorry,
Upon
Lim.
a time, there was a kitten named Candy. One day, Candy was taking a long walk. He saw lots of chocolate eggs under a tree. Candy was excited and grabbed all the chocolate eggs to share with his friends. His friends were a dog and a hog. They were all very happy. The end. Upon a time,
Okay, so sorry about that. I forgot that I muted myself before I play the video. I'm talking about the satire, all right? The satire is a story that I usually do it with my students. I will tell them short story like this one. Nasruddin, he found his neighbor on his knees looking for something in his yard. So he will ask his neighbor, "What are you looking for?" And his neighbor said, "I dropped my keys." So being a good neighbor, he said, "Let me help you." And the neighbor said, "Yeah, come over, help me look for my keys." So both of them are looking for the keys in the front yard. They go all around the front yard. They can't find the keys, even after 10 minutes. So he asked his neighbor again, "Where did you say you dropped the keys?" His neighbor said, "I didn't say anything. Actually, I dropped my keys in my bedroom." "Oh, so why are we looking for the keys out here in the yard?" And the wise man said, well, there's more light out here. In the bedroom, it's too dark, so it's better to look here. So this is the satire story. It has humor inside it and show the stupidity of the person. So this type of story, usually when I tell to the class, the students will mirror me. What they do is they try to tell another story, another satire story in groups. They will discuss and then they will tell. So this is what I do with my student, mirror me. I always tell them, mirror teacher. So they will work in group. So this is satire. Okay. Okay. Now, storytelling in activities in the classroom. There are lots of ways you can do it. Okay. For me, I love to share my own experiences with my students. You can share like, okay, today I come to school and on the way I saw the traffic light turn red and there's a car just rush through the traffic light. And then I ask the students, have you experienced something like this? And then the students will love to tell you this type of story. One by one, all of them will put up their hands and then they'll say, me, teacher, today the same thing happened. Or, oh, it happens when my father was driving, something like this happened. So you can slowly make your students tell the story to you. And then you can also introduce a new topic through a story. So like if you want to introduce a story, culture, something to do with culture, so you can tell a story if culture in it. So I like in the year 5, we have the story, The Peach Boy. So it is to tell the new topic on the Japanese culture. So I can introduce that story with my students. And story also motivates students. If there are stories that have good motivation values, so the students will be more motivated to do it, to improve themselves. And conduct interactive storytelling. This is where you tell a story and then you ask the students question, what do you think will happen next? And then the student will answer you. So this interactive storytelling is very good. It makes the students stop and think. They will think, and before they will think about the plot, they will think about the character. Should the character be doing this or should the character be doing that? And then after that, you allow the students to be the storyteller, not only the teacher, but let the students. And you will be amazed with all the stories that they come up with. And other than just tell the students, we can also ask the student to write a new version of the story or a story with different ending. And then use props and manipulatives. Using props are most effective if your students are shy and quiet. They really will tell the story when they have that, because that will be like what they hold to give them the confidence to tell the story properly. These are what I do in my classroom. I tell my storytelling. I have the pre-lesson, while lesson, and post-lesson. So for pre-lesson, mostly those are prompting. I will prompt my students. I'll prompt them using flashcards with pictures. I'll prompt them using book cover or book flip procedure. I'll flip through the books with them. Why? Because by showing the front cover of the book, I can invite comments from the student. Oh, have you seen this book before? Have you seen this story before? And I will open the book and show them page by page. And I also allow the student to form small group and tell the story among themselves. Okay, and then return to the whole group and then we read the story. Or I can also, for prompting, I also do name that story. I'll say about, have you listened or have you known this story before? This story involved a biscuit that ran away and is chased by people and animals. And while he was trying to cross a river, he was eaten by the fox, the sneaky fox. And then the student will say, "Oh, yes, it's the gingerbread man." Or I will ask, "Have you heard of the story about this beautiful girl that have two stepsisters and a wicked stepmother?" And then they'll say, "Oh, yeah, it's Cinderella." So prompt the students is is very good because we make them think of the story before we start telling them in the classroom. So in another way, we try to set the scene, set the mood, and then all the students will be waiting for your story. Next activities. Storytelling activities in the classroom is wild. So while telling, there's a lot of things you can do. So this is only part of what I do with my students. One of it is let them listen to professional storyteller. There are lots of professional storytellers out there. I'm not one of the professional storyteller. I'm just a teacher trying to be a storyteller to my students. And so sometimes it works, sometimes I don't think it works, but I just move on. Keep on telling stories because I want my students to learn English. And then let the student perform their favorite stories in group, because when you are trying to cultivate the students, you cannot ask them to do it individually. Normally they will be very scared and nervous. So when they are in a group, they are okay. And also ask them to read one of the books, especially the textbook that we use in the classroom, or any text that I have, I ask them to read together. So one person will read a part of the text, and then it will become a whole story. Or story cycle, that means I make the students sit in groups. One person tell a part of the story, so they weave a story together. Storyteller on tour is one of it is I learned it from the moving classroom. That I learned during one of the webinars, American English webinars. I make the students get the story in the group, and then they will go to another group and tell. So one of them will be the ambassador. They will go and then they on tour in the classroom. Okay, they will tell their story to another group. And then after that, what they do is they will compare. I'll give them worksheets, and then they will compare in the story which character they like best, story from group A or group B or group C. I have about 6 groups, so the student have a lot to comment on each other's stories. And then local historians, those are legends. I would tell my students, go home, find legends, local legends, and then create the legends and then tell in the class. So those are what I normally do in my classroom. I'm sure all of you have done more than that. Maybe you can share with me in the text box, yeah, in the chat box. What have you all been doing for these wild activities? Maybe I will learn from you. Yeah, this what I do. Yeah, I didn't see anyone typing there. Okay, moving on. I'll show you what I do in the class. Okay, so the first one here is what I said. I share with the students the story in a text, and then what the students do is they form groups, and then they run. One of the students will run in front, and they will read, and then they will go back to their group and whisper, and another person will be the script. They will write out the story. Okay, so they will run front and back, okay, for the story. Let me show you what they did, yeah. So this will be the script she's writing. The student is whispering to her, and then they run back and read again the next part of the story. And this is the student writing the story. Okay, so you can see that what they are writing. Guess what? Last night, my family and I went to a paddy field. We are staying in a homestay. So there are certain words that the student miss out, but it's okay. I just find that as long as they learn something from it, it's okay. And then finally, they will read it in front of the class. Okay, when they completed it. So each group will have different story to tell. This is another one that I normally do with my students. This is a storyteller. They are creating the story. They group together to tell to come up with their ideas. Okay, so each person will write their own stories before they will. After that, they go to another group to tell their story, because after they have the story, they go and share with another group, and then they come back to their own group. Okay, so I love my students to move about. After I learned that moving classroom is very good for the student. The students keep on moving, so they don't feel confined to their own place. So they keep on moving and they do the activities. So they really enjoy themselves. This is another one that happened in my class. Also, they start off with together, and then they tell the story. Also, like a moving classroom, they tell. And then after that, for this one, not only that, the next day, it continued to the next day, where they will compare the character of the story. They will discuss with each other. As you can see, I am doing legends. So they have so many legends, legend of Mashuri, legend of City Wang Kembang. So they will compare and write out in the worksheets that I give them which legend they like and why they like it. So the student will not only do the activity in the classroom, but they can also do the activity outside the classroom. And this one is inviting the professional storyteller. So this is what happened just recently from Kuala Lumpur Shakespeare Group. They tell the story. I join in, so I let my students listen to it. So this is my class. So what I do is I mirror it into the TV, because we are so lucky in my school. The parents donated the TV to us. So all the classroom have one TV, a 60-inch TV. So the students are able to watch the storytelling. Yeah, even though it's Zoom, I can still show to my student and they really enjoy it. You can see all my students sitting quietly there and listening. So these are the professional storyteller. Yeah, they can tell much better than me, and they can really attract the student attention. And you can see all the faces of my students, the wonder. Yeah, that story is Kanang, the Sering Park. And I also, instead of that, I also go to the Young International Tellers. Sometimes I share that with my students as well. So these are the things that I share with my students. When they listen to all this, it is like a bonus for them. Normally, I will do all this sharing on Friday. Then I'll say, okay, the next Friday or 2 weeks after this, we'll have a storytelling session. And my student will make sure that they are ready, or they will finish all their homework, and then they will make sure they come to school on that day. So yeah, it's good actually to have all this. Yeah. Okay, next is this is what I do also with my student with a story. This is group activities actually. So each students will tell part of the story, and then it become a whole story. And then the other one is read along a story. So this one is average class. So what I do with them is I give them the text, and then each student will read part of the text to make the story. So let me show you.
Parents said, "You can go to your friend's house." She was excited and happy from her parents, so she hugged her parents. So she went on to her friend's house.
When she arrived to her friend's house, she saw a flower. She wants to give it to her friend because it looks beautiful and she knows her friend likes flowers. As she wants to give it to her friend, she decided to make it a surprise and pick more flowers.
Nancy and her sister went for a swim.
Once upon a time, in the country of Japan, there lived two frogs, one of whom made his home in a ditch near the town of Osaka on the sea coast, while the other dwelt in a clear little stream which ran through the city of Kyoto. At such a great distance apart, they had never ever heard of each other. But funnily enough, the idea came into both their heads at once that they should like to see a little of the world. And the frog who lived at Kyoto wanted to visit Osaka, and the frog who lived at Osaka wished to go to Kyoto, where the great Mikado had his palace.
So one fine morning in the spring, they both set out along the road that led from Kyoto to Osaka, one from one end and the other from the other. The journey was more tiring than they expected, or they did not know much about traveling, and more tiring than they expected. But and halfway between the two towns there arose a mountain which had to be climbed. It took them a long
Parents said, "You can go to your..."
Okay, so for the final part, that is the post storytelling. There are also lots of activities we can do, like Dr. Chandra Mohan said, like does nurturing creativity in students include introducing higher order thinking skills through storytelling? Yes, you make the student think how they are going to do the story, how are they going to tell the story, and especially if they are going to reenact the story using their own words, or how they are going to make it into a modern story. From the legends, they use the legend, they retell the legends using modern setting. So the student have to use all that, the thinking skills. And another one is they do the autobiography. They also need to think. Or sometimes I ask them after telling the story, I say, please write a letter to the character in this story. So when they are writing the letter, they have to think, okay, how am I going to write the letter to Cinderella? How am I going to write the letter to Prince Charming? So how am I going to write a letter to King John from the story? What story is that? From one of the story, Robin Hood. How to make King John become a good king from a bad king. So all that require the student to think. Okay, I hope that answer your question, Dr. Chandra, yeah. Okay, for me, as you can see, I have a lot of activities. These are only part of the activities, and I'm going to share with you. Students share their favorite story or their character with the teachers, and I must have a regular story time. because regular or routine is a must with your students, because you cannot tell a story once and then you wait another 2 months or 3 months to tell another story. So it has to be routine. So for me, my routine is every 2 weeks I will go for the story with my students. So my students are always well prepared, and then they will bring their own storybooks, because they know, oh, after 2 weeks, teacher will definitely ask us to share our story. So they will keep on looking for newer story to share in the class. Then they have different way to tell story, because they can do storyboard, they can do stick character, they can act out, okay, so they can do a lot of other things. And then hold a storytelling contest in my class itself, or writing contest. So whose writing or whose story writing is the best, they can go to the front of the class and tell the whole class. And then write a day in the life of your favorite story character, so they can change. So I did this on this character in any character they like, they can change a little bit, yeah, and then put the pieces together. I will come up with story. I cut the story into a few pieces, and then it's like a jigsaw. I give it to the student in groups, and then we'll piece the story together, and then they will tell in the class. Normally, these pieces or story together is for the when I just started it telling story, so that to encourage the students to get the story together, glue it together. Then autobiography of anything. This is normally we do in the classroom, like autobiography of a shoes, autobiography of a bicycle. So to start off the student on how to tell the story. And then a story must have a proverb at the end of the story, or writing a letter, a poem, announcement. So all these different activities will make the students like to do more. And then interview the character. So sometimes I'll ask the student to act out. Okay, you are Superman. How are you going to act? So the rest of them will interview him, or you will be the wolf from the story Little Red Riding Hood. So the class will interview and see why he wanted to catch Little Red Riding Hood. So there will be questions coming up for all that. Okay, so these are some of the activities that I do with my class. One of it is writing a letter to Cinderella. So you can see that the letter, Dear Cinderella, congratulations on being the new queen. I hope you will make right decision, be kind and caring towards your subjects, and loyal to your country. I hope you will rule with pride, kindness, and wisdom. So the student have to think on what to write a letter. Okay, so this is one of the activity for post storytelling, and this is how one of the students, she make it into a PowerPoint. How to make what will King John do to help his people? King John is from the story, like I said just now, writing Robin Hood. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Too many story in my head. Yeah, this is from the story Riding Hood. Robbing from them, he will give people jobs around the village. Okay, so this will be what King John will do. So this is done by one of my students, Azia. So not only telling us how King John can become a good king, she also come out with step by step on how King John will do it. Okay, step one, he will create work for the people, sweep the floor and things like that. Yeah. Okay. Now another one that I normally do. Let me unmute myself first. Story, which I will share it to you.
Dayang Bunting, also known as Lake of Pregnant Maiden. The reason why the island was named Dayang Bunting was because a prince named Mat Teja had fell in love when he saw a fairy princess, Babang Sari, by chance at a lake. He had tricked the princess into marrying him. Mat Teja had originally asked an old man who was known for being wise for advices. Good morning, old man. I have come here to ask for advices on how to ask for a lady's hand in marriage. If you really know your lady, you should know how to propose to her.
Very good morning to everyone. Today, we are going to act out our legend, which is called the Legend of Masuri. Hello, I am going to act as Mangaras and a warrior.
I'm going to act as Masuri. I'm going to act as the chief scribe and the warrior. I'm going to act as the
Long time ago, legend says that there was a young lady who lived with her mother. They lived in Pulau Langkawi. The young lady was known as Masuri. She was the most prettiest girl in that island. Although she was pretty, she was also very kind.
One day, Masuri was walking when she met a handsome young man with his good long hair. He was good at his size. They got married.
Legend believes that Masuri exists and cursed Langkawi for 7 generations. Thank you for listening to our legend. But we are not sure if the legend of Masuri is true, because legends can be true or not true.
Okay, as you can see, the first video that I show, the students tell the story of Dayang Bunting, but they use modern character, people from now. You can see the clothes that they wear are all from now, the era now. And then the second one is I'm sharing how the student act out the play. Of course, I cut it short because it took half an hour for the student to present the whole play. And you can see that my students, they enjoy it. They are happily enjoying the storytelling to the class. And then students share their favorite character. Like I said, I will give them the worksheets and then they will write out which character they like the best and things like that. Okay, so I hope you can see that my student really enjoys storytelling session. Okay, these are some of the snippets of storytelling. I'll show you all the short story that I've been doing with them. And one of it, okay, this one is public speaking. Also is part of storytelling. I just give her a short title and then she's presenting it. Okay.
Today I'm going to be telling a story called The Three Little Pigs. Once upon a time, there was three little pigs sitting on a couch. They lived with the mother pig. One day, the mother pig said, "Look, my boys, you need to build." Today I'm going to be telling a story called The Three Little Pigs. Once upon a time, there was three little.
Today I'm going to present my story. It's called A Kid Who Becomes Principal of the School. Wait a second, how can a kid become a principal? Let me tell you. Once upon a time, there was a boy named Jake. He is a very bright child. One day, Jake's parents brought him to school. Few hours pass. The bell rang. Time for lunch. Jake had spaghetti for lunch, and these big bullies approached to his table, and he said to Jake, "Give me your food, or else I will beat you up." Jake was very frightened and gave his food to the bully. The bully tasted it and said, "Yuck, this is the most disgusting thing I have ever tasted in my life." He threw Jake's lunch on the floor.
Good morning, Teacher Lim and friends. Today, I am going to tell you a story that I made up which is titled The Water Guardians. One day, there was a girl named Lucy in a small village. She wanted to go in the forest to discover the beautiful features of the forest. Then she picked up a few mushrooms on the way, and then she continued to go deeper and deeper inside the forest. Suddenly, she stumbled across a beautiful waterfall, and left and right were three water guardians. They looked like seahorses. One water guardian said, "You may not enter the waterfall unless the queen lets you." Then, out of nowhere, a woman with a crown appeared, and one water guardian said, "There's the queen." Then the queen and Lucy entered the waterfall.
Reality, a matter of choice. Reality. What is reality? Is it not the situation we are living in that becomes our reality? Do we actually have a choice in deciding what our reality is? To illustrate my point, let's look at a picture of reality for 14-year-old Alila. It's 5 a.m. The sound of the alarm clock rudely awakens Alila. Memories of her father's death come flowing back to her. Your father has passed away from the COVID-19 virus. Alila's father died without life insurance and with numerous debts to pay. As a result, Alila's mother had to take on jobs, which meant that she could not spend time with Alila. This morning, Alila recalls her unfinished homework due today, and so she questions herself.
All right. Now, as you can see, the first one here is about three little pigs. But instead of the original story of three little pigs, she changed it a little bit. The three little pigs are at home, sitting on the couch, and the mother talked to them. So it's a little bit different from the actual three little pigs. She changed it a little bit according to her idea. And the next one is about the boy become a principal of the school. How he, at first, he's being bullied, and he studied very hard and become the principal and change the school from bullying. So there's no more bullying in the school. And the next one is the water guardians. This is a story that she wrote it herself, and it was so interesting. And she tell it in two parts. So first part finished, then she will tell the class, I'll continue the story the next time. So the whole class was waiting for her story because they were like, oh my, what will happen next? So that's why I say storytelling is so good for your class, because it makes the student want to attend your class all the time. So sometimes other teachers were telling me that my online classroom, the number of students getting less and less, but I said, I maintain because of this storytelling, because all the students wanted to listen to more stories, so they enter my class. So I have almost full attendance for my online classes. And then the other one is I just teach a new topic. So I just give them words. I say, okay, I want you all to talk about this. So she talk about that, and then she put some story into her public speaking. This is part of the public speaking that I'm training my student towards that as well. So for me, public speaking is also part of storytelling. Shadow play. Yeah, Dr. Chandran, shadow play or wayang kulit is one of the things that I want to learn. So far, I haven't done that with my students yet, but I definitely will love to do that. Yes, I'll definitely will do that. Thank you for letting me know about that. Yeah, I'll look into it more. As you know, that I've been teaching for 34 years, and I've been trying my best to improve my teaching and then trying to improve on my storytelling. Thank you, Dr. Chandran, for the suggestion.
Today I'm running.
Okay, so with that, we come to the end of my presentation today. This is what I get from Charles Heathcliff. I read one of his writings. He said that we approach language first as a playground, and if the learner make mistakes, as seem an inevitable part of the process, well, we had a mopping up session later on where we could tidy up the errors and point out improvement. So this is what I usually do with my students. Yeah, that is why when you see all the snippets and all the videos that I show you, some of my students they did not pronounce it correctly, or when they pronounce it, they miss certain words. So I just let it be, because it helped my students to improve when they present their story the next time and the next time. So I really love to do storytelling with my students. Now, why I like storytelling is because I attended one of the courses, in 2003 that time, and then that is where I started storytelling with my student, 2003 until now. I find that it does help my students a lot. The storytelling, it helps tremendously, and not only that, it's changed my perception on teaching as well. I used to be a chalk and talk teacher, and also not only chalk and talk, I follow the syllabus, and then I will try to finish everything by the book. So there's no fun. I think there's not much fun with my students. Yeah, and then my student also reluctantly come to my class. So once I find that there are so many other approach to English teaching, then one of it is storytelling. Not only storytelling, reading, reading literatures, and then I really found a gold mine there to teach the students. The students really love it, and then I get them more books and more books. So they really love it. And then they share the books. And then surprisingly, when I do all this, I find that it helps with their academic results. Suddenly, all of them can pass their English, and then they can write better essays. Yeah, that is what we want from our students, getting ideas in their writing, and then pass their exam, and then their fluency their literacy skills, all getting better and better. And for the past, when the UPSR was on, my students have been achieving 100% passes all along after 2005, yeah, until now, they have always achieved 100% passes for English. So I'm not sure whether is it because of the storytelling, but I think it's one of it, yeah, because of this. And next one is I encourage them to read. So my students read a lot, especially like the host, Madam Josephine, said, my student won a lot of toko nilam, which is true, but only toko nilam for bahasa English, for English language. So they read a lot of English book and they can share it with you anytime you want. So I'm very happy with my students, and I'm very happy to share all this with all of you. And if we have some time, if you have any question, you can share with, you can ask me, or if you have anything to share and to let me know that I can use in my class, please do so. Please type in the chat box, yeah, and let me know so I also can learn from you. Okay, I get all my materials for the presentation today are from American English Resources. There are plenty of information there. You can just go into there. Anybody also can get all the information. It can be in the form of writings, in the form of worksheets, in the form of videos. You can get all of it there. And then there are also American English live webinar series where I learn moving classroom. That is the one that I adopt in my class. If you come to see me teaching, my class will always move about. My student won't sit down because I find that if they sit down, after 5-10 minutes they get bored. They like start to think about other things. They are not already paying attention to you. So my student will always be moving around, talking, exchanging ideas. So instead of just the classroom, like I showed you just now, I also bring them outside the classroom as long as they move. And while not only you have to plan so that they move, you must plan that they learn something. So the learning is there as well as the moving part. Yeah, that is what I learned from one of the American English live webinar. And then creativity in the classroom, I learned a lot from the reading I get from creativity in the classroom, Charles Heathcliff, and personal and creative storytelling, telling our story, David Heathcliff. So these two writing also I get a lot of information from that. So any question from the audience?
So maybe while we are waiting for the questions to come in, there's this one comment I'd like to pinpoint. Maybe we can talk a little bit about this. Reflect back this comment by Kamala Devi earlier on. She mentioned about long lost conventional method. Yes, we listen to all these activities, these methods, they are all activities that being is a legacy, it come down from generations to generations, like the shadow play, the wayang kulit, the conventional storytelling, even storyboard. It's not new. So it's something that we are trying to revive in our lesson, and it becomes like something that's really special and memorable, isn't it?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for mentioning that long lost conventional method. It is.
Yeah, I especially love the legends part, because that is where my students learn about their own culture. Sometimes we will be surprised that they do not know a lot of local legend, like the story of Mount Kinabalu. there are so many different versions of legend of Mount Kinabalu. So when my students share it, we were surprised. Oh, we have that, especially on the widow crying on top of the Mount Kinabalu. And that is why when you see from far, you can see the water falling down from the Mount Kinabalu like tears. So that is one story that my students share with me. I was like so impressed. Wow, they know this story. I, as a teacher, I didn't even know. So I get that. I get that from my students. And then there are story about Mount Kinabalu again, because we are from Sabah. Kinabalu is our pride. So there is one story on this Mount Kinabalu, on the dragon, how the dragon love to play with the pearl, the ball, and then there come the people from China, and then they managed to steal the pearl from the dragon. So that is also part of the story. And then I would say, wow, how the culture from the North Borneo, they woven it, and then they link it with another country, China. So it makes me think, wow, my student know that. And then after that, they come up with a lot of story. One of it I share with you just with the audience just now, Huminudun, which is why we celebrate Kaamatan, yeah, in the Harvest Festival in Sabah. So that is the story why we are celebrating Kaamatan in Sabah, because of Huminudun. She sacrificed herself for the goods of the people. So I just love it. There's also story from Sarawak on this Bujang Senangs, because I have two students from Sarawak, so they tell that story when they come to legend. I said, you share legend from your own culture. So then I said, why you share from Sarawak? I thought all of you are from Sabah. I said, no, we are from Sarawak, teacher. Oh, okay. So when they share that, they like enrich everybody. They enrich the student, and then, like I said, they have more ideas, and then they learn more about themselves, their own culture. Yeah.
It's so true. Okay, so let's see if we have any questions. Genevieve said allowing students to enjoy lessons is utmost important. I have to agree with that, because if your students love your lesson, I think it's going to be all the way. You know.
Yes. True.
So
The most important thing as teacher, we need our students to enjoy our lessons, so that they will be waiting for the next lesson. Instead of we waiting for them to come to our class, they wait for us.
Yes, and yes, I noticed there's one question. It's earlier on. Yes, I forgot the name, but I did put down the note here. Says, how do we improvise storytelling activities among the secondary school students? So,
Okay, among the secondary students, they have their own story, but I think you can use things like radio talk show. So one of it that I think it's very, because I used to teach in secondary school for 7 years before I come to primary school. Actually, I requested to teach in primary school because I just love younger children, because it's so easy to communicate with them, and when you see them grow, and then you feel so happy. Okay, coming back to the question, how you go about, because while I was teaching in secondary school, what I do with my student is radio show. So I make the student tell the story, get it ready. They can write it on a piece of paper, and then the school have PA system. And then during recess time, the student can tell the story. Okay, so it will be very routine. Like every Tuesday, there will be story time, English story time. So the student will feel very proud. When you start it was quite a bit difficult to get the student to tell the story. But once it started, all the students will say, teacher me, teacher me, teacher me. Next week is my turn. Next week is my turn. Oh, teacher, I have this story I want to tell. So you will have endless students waiting to tell the story. So you can pick and choose. Okay, this go first. This is the next story. So one of it is radio talk time, and then also you can find story in songs, because secondary students, they have a lot of songs that they love. So one of it, you remember the song Lemon Tree, moving around all the time, is something like that. So I use that to tell the story with my student also, the lemon tree. So you ask them to draw. Of course, they change a bit here and there. And then when they are bored, so when you're bored, you can sit on the tree and things like that. No? Then you drive your car, you drive round and round and round. So that is one of the way you can do it with the secondary students. And also, since I love legends, instead of just telling them, okay, tell the legends, I told them, oh, you are the local historians. Now, being local historians, go and find out all the local tales. And then the student will really go out. I told them to interview their parents, they can interview their elders, they can go to the library and find out all these tales, and then they share it with the class. So these are part of the things that I do while I was in secondary school. I hope it does answer your question.
Well, okay. All right. There's a comment from Yong Pei Na. I always believe reading habit can enhance pupils' proficiency, and teachers need to set a role model to inspire and motivate them to read. I think, yes, it all comes to us, as the role model, right?
Yeah, very true. And not only how we enhance the students to read, we as teachers, we must show them we love reading. I always tell my students I love reading. I will bring storybooks to class with me. I will bring my tab with me and show them the online library and how to be members of the online library. So I would like to tell all of you again, we in Sabah are very lucky, because Sabah is the very first state to have e-library. Our Sabah State Library started e-library in year 2012. So early on. So I'm one of the member that started in 2012, and I'm still a member now. You can borrow up to 10 books for 21 days. So you don't even need to go out from your house. You just borrow it online. So I keep on telling my students, you want books? You don't have to ask your parents to keep on buying books, because some parents, they can't afford to keep on buying so many books. They can buy 1 or 2 books, but not dozen and dozen of it. So the students can read from the e-library. And then we in Sabah are so lucky.
The thing I know about Madam Lim, she has, I think, she has hundreds of ebooks in her tablet.
Yes, I have hundreds.
So many books to read. If she has that free time, the in between time, during courses that we used to go together, or she would just sit down there and read, and you had to interrupt her, because she's so into her story, the nerdy type.
Because I need to get the story ready in my head before I go to class to, come out and tell my students the story.
You're just so jealous to have something to read.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
I'll look through the chat right now. Okay, yes. From yes, I guess we don't have a lot of questions, but we have some comments from Evelyn Locke. Great if you can compile all the local or native legends or fables, etc., from your pupils. Yes, Um,
Um,
that's
yes,
a good
I
idea.
do. I ask my student. I don't compile their story. My student did it themselves. So far, I have already my student, not me. Yeah, my student already compiled two books. Yeah, two books on their own. The very first one, they have a lot of local story, legends and poems, and then the second one is the one Madam Josephine showed you earlier on. The first one I helped a little bit. I directed them on how to do it. The second one, I didn't do anything. I just said that, girls, why not you compile it all together, and then we need to have editor, sub-editor, and then there you go. The student do everything from the cover and the content, everything they did on their own. Then when they finish everything, the only part that I help them is I send it to the printer. I send the completed book to the printer. The printers, after printing, bring back, and then I distribute it to the students. So that is only my part. The rest of it are all from my students. And I myself was impressed with it as well. All the story inside the small booklets, that's really, really very nice.
Yes. Maybe if you are interested, you can contact Madam Lim for to show you the whole book. We come almost to the end of this session, today's webinar. So I'd like to, okay, hold on. Okay. So this is another, this is a glimpse on of that book. We are looking at the screen right now. The Way We Write It by Five Rose, and this was published in 2018, and it was published literally. And I like to read this part in your foreword to your class book. As you flip the pages of this publication, you will see examples of writings done by the pupils. We need to teach the pupils that there is more than one way to learn English. We must cultivate them to think critically and creatively, be innovative, be a leader, and to work together collaboratively. I think that's really beautifully written here. I mean, it really tells a lot about our job as a teacher and educator. So we need to inspire our students to, read, and not just read, to produce, to be productive. So I guess that's it from me and Madam Lim and Josephine. Until we'll have another one more session, coming session. We haven't fixed the date yet, but we'll let you know soon. So make sure that you follow us in Facebook, like our YouTube channel, and subscribe to it. All right, that's all from us. Thank you, and goodbye. Until then, see you.
Goodbye.
Lim.